Secrets and Roses. The aroma of caramelized sugar and vanilla filled the kitchen as Nasreen Ahmadi pulled another perfect batch of macarons from the oven. At 32, she had built a reputation as one of the most innovative pastry chefs in Portland. Her small bakery, Sweet Alchemy, attracted food bloggers and locals alike, all eager to taste her Persian-inspired French pastries. "These are divine," said Oliver Reed, leaning against the counter. His dark curls were still damp from the morning dive, and he smelled faintly of salt water. As a marine biologist studying coastal ecosystems, Oliver's schedule was as unpredictable as the tides. Yet somehow, for the past 18 months, they had made it work. Nasreen smiled, carefully placing the macarons on a cooling rack. "The secret is the rose water. Just a drop too much and it tastes like perfume." "Much like your other secrets?" Oliver teased, reaching for her hand. Nasreen felt her stomach tighten. If only he knew how close to the truth he was. She turned away, busying herself with wiping down the counter. "Everyone has secrets," she replied lightly. Later that evening, Nasreen stood in her bathroom, staring at her reflection. She unclenched her left hand, watching as the tremor she'd been suppressing all day finally broke free. The fine motor control required for her intricate pastry work had become increasingly difficult to maintain. The early onset Parkinson's diagnosis, from 18 months ago, ironically just weeks before meeting Oliver, had been devastating but not surprising. Her father had developed the disease in his 40s. She opened the medicine cabinet and pulled out the bottle of carbidopa levodopa, carefully hidden behind toiletries. The medication helped control the symptoms, but nothing could stop the disease's progression. Nasreen swallowed the pill with a sip of water, wondering how much longer she could keep up the charade. Her phone buzzed with a text from Oliver. "Dinner at my place tomorrow? I have news?" Nasreen smiled, typing back a quick yes before setting her phone down. Oliver had been hinting about a research opportunity in Australia, a 6-month project studying coral reef restoration. He wanted her to come with him. How could she explain that planning 6 months ahead felt like staring into an abyss? That she couldn't predict whether her hands would still craft perfect pastries by then, or if the tremors would make even holding a spoon difficult. The next evening, Oliver's apartment overlooked the Columbia River. He had prepared grilled salmon with a mango salsa and opened a bottle of Willamette Valley Pinot Noir. Candlelight softened the room as they ate. "I got the grant," Oliver announced, his green eyes bright with excitement. 6 months in the Great Barrier Reef. They've even arranged for a local bakery that would love to host guest chef appearances. "That's wonderful," Nasreen said, genuinely happy for him, yet feeling the weight of her unspoken truth. "I know it's asking a lot," Oliver continued, taking her hands across the table. "But I can't imagine being there without you." Nasreen felt her left hand beginning to tremble. She pulled away, pretending to reach for her wine glass. "What's wrong?" Oliver asked, his smile faltering. "Is it too soon? We could try long distance if—" "No, it's not that," Nasreen interrupted. I need to think about the bakery. It's a big decision." Oliver nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Of course. We have time to figure it out." Time. The one thing Nasreen couldn't control. As they cleared the dishes together, she wondered what would happen if she simply told him the truth. Would he look at her with pity? Would he stay out of obligation? Or would he quietly step away, unwilling to tie himself to someone whose future held inevitable decline? Later that night, lying beside Oliver as he slept, Nasreen made a decision. She would tell him. Soon. But first she would make an appointment with Dr. Patel to discuss her prognosis. Perhaps with a clearer picture of what lay ahead, she could find the courage to share her truth with the man she had grown to love. As moonlight filtered through the curtains, Nasreen watched Oliver's peaceful expression and whispered a promise to herself. No more secrets. soon. Trembling hands. The morning light streamed through the windows of Dr. Patel's office as Nasreen sat with her hands clasped tightly in her lap, fighting to control the tremor that had become increasingly difficult to hide. "The disease is progressing a bit faster than we hoped," Dr. Patel said, reviewing her test results. Her kind eyes held no judgment, only professional concern. "But there are options, Nasreen. We can adjust your medication dosage, and I'd like you to start physical therapy twice weekly." Nasreen nodded, watching as Dr. Patel wrote out a new prescription. "What about the future? Will I still be able to work?" "For now, yes, though you might need to make adaptations. Have you told your employer yet? Or Oliver?" At the mention of Oliver's name, Nasreen's throat tightened. "Not yet." Dr. Patel set down her pen. "Nasreen, support systems are crucial with chronic conditions. Hiding this creates unnecessary stress which can exacerbate symptoms." "I know," Nasreen whispered. "But every time I try to tell him, I remember my mother caring for my father. How exhausted she was. How their relationship became more about caregiver and patient than husband and wife." She blinked back tears. "Oliver talks about our future with such hope. Australia. Maybe children someday. I can't bear to be the one who dims that light." "You're not giving him enough credit," Dr. Patel said gently. "And you're making decisions for both of you by withholding information he deserves to know." The truth of these words followed Nasreen back to Sweet Alchemy, where her assistant Zoe was managing the morning rush. "You're late," Zoe observed as Nasreen tied her apron. "Everything okay? Doctor's appointment," Nasreen said vaguely, washing her hands before examining the day's production schedule. "Did the order of Valrhona chocolate arrive?" "Yesterday. I started the temper for today's truffles." Zoe paused. "Nasreen, are you sick?" "You've had a lot of appointments lately." "Just some minor health issues. Nothing serious." The lie fell easily from her lips. After 18 months of practice, dot. As she worked, Nasreen found herself dropping a bowl of ganache when a tremor hit unexpectedly. Chocolate splattered across the floor and her pristine chef's whites. "Damn it," she muttered, kneeling to clean the mess. "I've got it," Zoe said, already grabbing towels. She hesitated. "Your hand is shaking." "Just low blood sugar," Nasreen replied, the excuse ready. "I skipped breakfast." Later that afternoon, Oliver surprised her with a visit, bringing coffee and his infectious enthusiasm about the Australia project. He'd spoken with the bakery in Cairns, and they were excited about the possibility of her guest appearances. "They specifically mentioned your rose cardamom eclairs," he said proudly. "You're going international, love." Nasreen smiled, even as anxiety twisted in her stomach. "That's wonderful." "Are you feeling all right?" Oliver asked, noticing her pallor. "You seem tired lately." "Just busy with a wedding cake order," she deflected. 7 tiers of vanilla bean with raspberry. That evening, alone in her apartment, Nasreen tried to pipe delicate sugar flowers for the wedding cake. Her hands trembled violently, ruining 3 attempts. Frustration mounting, she threw the piping bag across the kitchen, watching as royal icing splattered against the wall. Her phone rang. Oliver. "Hey, I forgot my jacket at the bakery. Mind if I swing by your place to pick it up?" "Actually, I'm just heading to bed," Nasreen lied, eyeing the kitchen disaster. "Early start tomorrow. Can I bring it tomorrow evening? We're still on for dinner, right?" "Of course," he said, disappointment evident. "Sleep well." After hanging up, Nasreen stared at the calendar on her wall. 3 weeks until Oliver needed her decision about Australia. 3 weeks to either come clean or fabricate another reason why she couldn't go. The next morning, Nasreen woke to find her left arm completely rigid, a new symptom. Panic rose in her chest as she forced herself through range-of-motion exercises, until she could move again. She doubled her medication, knowing the risks but desperate to function normally. At the bakery, the extra medication made her nauseous and lightheaded. She excused herself to the bathroom twice before Zoe confronted her. "You need to go home," Zoe insisted. "I can handle today's orders." "I'm fine," Nasreen protested. "You're not fine. You haven't been fine for months." Zoe's eyes softened. "Whatever it is, you don't have to face it alone." The words hit Nasreen like a physical blow. How many people had noticed what she tried so hard to hide? That evening, preparing for dinner with Oliver, Nasreen's hands cooperated just long enough for her to apply minimal makeup and change into a simple dress. She placed her medication in her purse. She'd need another dose during dinner. Oliver had prepared a special evening, complete with candles and her favorite music. As he poured wine, his smile was tinged with nervous energy. "I have something important to ask you," he said, taking her hands across the table. Nasreen, S heart raced. Was this a proposal? The thought filled her with both joy and terror. "Before you say anything," she began, her voice trembling as much as her concealed hand. "There's something I need to—" The doorbell interrupted her confession. Oliver apologized, going to answer it. It was a delivery, a stunning bouquet of roses and a small box wrapped in silver paper. Nasreen felt tears welling. She couldn't accept a ring, not without telling him the truth. As Oliver returned, smiling, she stood abruptly. "I need to use the bathroom," she mumbled, grabbing her purse and rushing down the hall. Inside the bathroom, she leaned against the sink, breathing heavily. This was it. After dinner, she would tell him everything. She reached for her medication, fumbling with the child-proof cap as a tremor hit. The bottle slipped from her grasp, pills scattering across the tile floor just as a knock came at the door. "Nasreen, are you okay in there?" The tide turns. "Just a minute," Nasreen called, frantically gathering the scattered pills. Her fingers wouldn't cooperate, and several tablets skittered under the cabinet. The door opened. Oliver stood frozen in the doorway, his eyes moving from Nasreen's trembling hands to the prescription bottle lying on its side. "What's going on?" His voice was quiet. Concern etched across his features. Nasreen felt the room spin. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. Not with her on the bathroom floor, desperately clutching at pills like a guilty secret. "I can explain," she whispered. Though the words felt hollow, Oliver knelt beside her, picking up the bottle. His marine biologist's eye quickly scanned the label. Carbidopa levodopa, 25 to 100 milligrams. His brow furrowed. "This is for Parkinson's disease." The silence between them stretched like an endless ocean. Nasreen couldn't look at him, couldn't bear to see. The moment understanding dawned. "How long?" he finally asked. "I was diagnosed 18 months ago, 2 weeks before we met." Her voice sounded distant, even to herself. Oliver sat back against the bathtub, processing. 18 months, all this time. Nasreen finally looked up, surprised not to see anger, but a profound hurt in his eyes. Somehow that was worse. "I didn't want you to see me differently," she explained, tears flowing freely now. "I didn't want to be a burden or an obligation." "An obligation?" Oliver repeated, his voice cracking. "Is that what you think of me? That I'm so shallow I would walk away because of a medical condition?" "No, it's not that simple," Nasreen said, struggling to her feet. She braced herself against the sink. "My father had Parkinson's. I watched it transform him, and my parents' marriage. My mother loved him, but she became his nurse more than his wife. I couldn't bear the thought of that happening to us." Oliver stood too, running a hand through his hair. "So instead, you lied. For a year and a half." The accusation hung between them like a physical barrier. Nasreen couldn't deny it. Every canceled plan, every excuse, every deflection, They formed a pattern of deception she hadn't fully acknowledged until this moment. "I was going to tell you tonight," she said quietly. "I saw Dr. Patel yesterday. The disease is progressing, faster than expected." Oliver's expression softened slightly. "That's why you've been avoiding discussions about Australia." Nasreen nodded. "How could I commit to something 6 months away when I don't know what condition I'll be in?" They moved to the living room, the romantic dinner forgotten. Oliver sat across from her, hands clasped between his knees, processing everything. "Tell me about it," he said finally. "Everything. No more secrets." So Nasreen explained her early symptoms, the slight tremor in her left hand that she'd initially mistaken for too much caffeine, the diagnosis, the medication that helped but couldn't stop progression, the fear of losing her career as a pastry chef, the terror of becoming dependent on others. "The hardest part is the unpredictability," she admitted. "Some days I'm almost normal. Other days," she gestured to her left hand, which now trembled visibly. "On bad days, I can barely hold a piping bag." Oliver listened intently, asking thoughtful questions about her symptoms, her prognosis, her treatments. The scientist in him sought understanding, through information. "Why didn't you trust me with this?" he asked finally, the hurt evident in his voice. "Because I love you too much," Nasreen answered, the truth simple and devastating. "I wanted to be the woman you fell in love with, not a patient you felt obligated to stand by." "That's not fair, to me or to you," Oliver said, moving to sit beside her. "You don't get to decide what I can handle or how I feel." They sat in silence, the weight of 18 months of secrets between them. Outside, rain began to fall, pattering against the windows. "I need some time," Oliver finally said. "This is a lot to process." Nasreen nodded, gathering her purse. "I understand." As she stood to leave, Oliver caught her hand, her trembling left hand, and held it gently. "I'm not walking away, Nasreen. I just need to think." "Take all the time you need," she whispered, knowing she had no right to ask for anything more. That night, alone in her apartment, Nasreen faced the possibility that she had lost the most important relationship in her life, not because of her disease, but because of her fear. The irony wasn't lost on her. The next morning, she opened Sweet Alchemy with puffy eyes and a heavy heart. Zoe took one look at her and wrapped her in a tight hug. "Whatever it is, we'll figure it out," Zoe promised. 4. The first time, Nasreen didn't deflect or make excuses. "I have Parkinson's disease," she said, the words feeling strange after being hidden for so long. "And I think I just lost Oliver because I couldn't bring myself to tell him." Zoe's eyes widened, but her grip on Nasreen's hands only tightened. "Then he doesn't deserve you." But deep down, Nasreen knew the truth. It wasn't Oliver who had failed their relationship. It was her own fear that had built the walls between them, brick by brick, lie by lie. As she worked through the day's orders, her hands steadier than her heart, Nasreen wondered if some things, once broken by secrets, could ever truly be mended. Weathering the storm. 3 days passed without a word from Oliver. 3 days in which Nasreen fluctuated between resignation and hope, between anger at herself and understanding of his silence. When Sweet Alchemy closed each evening, she would check her phone, finding nothing but routine messages from suppliers and friends. On the 4th day, as she was preparing to close the bakery, the bell above the door jingled. Oliver stood there, rain-damp and serious, a folder tucked under his arm. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice revealing nothing of what he might be feeling. Nasreen nodded, her heart hammering as she locked the front door and flipped the sign to closed. They sat at one of the small tables where customers normally enjoyed her pastries with coffee or tea. Oliver opened the folder, revealing printouts of medical journal articles, treatment options, and clinical trials. "I've been researching," he said simply. I can see that, Nasreen replied, surprised by the thoroughness of his investigation. Parkinson's isn't a death sentence, he continued. The progression varies widely between individuals. The average person maintains good quality of life for many years after diagnosis, especially with early intervention. He paused. Which you've already started. Nasreen couldn't read his tone. Was this clinical detachment? Or was he building towards something? Oliver, He held up a hand. Let me finish, please. I've had 3 days to think, while you've been carrying this for 18 months. He took a deep breath. I'm hurt that you didn't trust me with this. That hurts more than anything else. I know, Nasreen whispered, guilt washing over her again. But, he continued, his voice softening slightly, I understand why. Fear makes us do things we wouldn't otherwise do. He glanced down at his research. And this is scary. I won't pretend it isn't. A flicker of hope sparked in Nasreen's chest. What are you saying? I'm saying that I need absolute honesty from now on. About everything. Good days, bad days, worries, symptoms, all of it. His green eyes held hers steadily. Can you promise me that? Yes, Nasreen said without hesitation. Absolutely. Oliver reached across the table, taking both her hands in his, including the left one, which trembled slightly. Then I'm not going anywhere. Relief flooded through Nasreen, followed quickly by disbelief. Just like that? Not just like that, Oliver corrected her. This isn't a simple thing to work through. Trust has been broken, and we have practical challenges ahead that neither of us fully understands yet. He squeezed her hands gently. But I didn't fall in love with you because you have steady hands. I fell in love with your creativity, your kindness, your strength, none of which this disease can take away. Tears spilled down Nasreen's cheeks. I don't deserve this second chance. This isn't about deserving, Oliver said firmly. It's about choosing. And I choose us, the real us, not some idealized version where nothing ever goes wrong. In the days that followed, they began rebuilding their relationship on a foundation of honesty. Nasreen invited Oliver to her next appointment with Dr. Patel, who answered his many questions with patience and clarity. Together, they researched adaptations for the bakery, special tools that could help Nasreen continue her work even as her symptoms progressed. Oliver contacted a Parkinson's support group, and though Nasreen was reluctant at first, she agreed to attend a meeting. The Australia project required difficult conversations. After much discussion, they decided Oliver would go, but for 4 months instead of 6, with Nasreen joining for the middle 2 months. It wasn't the seamless adventure they'd originally imagined, but it was a compromise that acknowledged both his career opportunity and her medical needs. I've been thinking, Oliver said one evening as they walked along the riverfront, about what you said about your parents, how your mother became more nurse than wife. Nasreen tensed. This fear still lingered, despite everything. That won't be us, he continued. I've been talking with the partners of people in the support group. They've shared strategies for maintaining the romance and partnership, even when caregiving becomes part of the equation. He stopped, turning to face her. I won't let that happen to us, and neither will you. Nasreen leaned into him, drawing strength from his certainty. How can you be so sure? Because we're facing this with open eyes, he replied. No secrets, no pretending. At Sweet Alchemy, Nasreen finally spoke with Zoe and her other employees about her condition. Their support was immediate and overwhelming. Offers to adjust schedules on her bad days, suggestions for workflow modifications, even research into baking equipment designed for people with mobility challenges. I had no idea how exhausting it was, hiding everything, Nasreen confessed to Oliver that night. It's like I've been holding my breath for 18 months, and now I can finally breathe. Not every day was easy. Nasreen still had moments of fear about the future, about becoming a burden despite Oliver's assurances. Oliver sometimes felt overwhelmed by the uncertain road ahead. They argued occasionally about treatment options, about how much assistance Nasreen needed on difficult days, about finding the balance between support and independence. But through it all, a new intimacy developed between them, the kind that comes only from facing difficult truths together. They learned to laugh about the awkward moments, to celebrate the good days, and to hold each other through the hard ones. 1 month after the revelation, Oliver took Nasreen back to the restaurant where their interrupted dinner had taken place. The small box wrapped in silver paper sat between them. "You never opened your gift that night," Oliver said softly. Nasreen unwrapped it with slightly trembling fingers to find a delicate silver bracelet. Engraved on the inside were the words, "In all weathers." "It's a sailing expression," Oliver explained. "A promise to stay the course regardless of the conditions." He fastened it around her wrist. "I bought it before I knew about your diagnosis, but it seems even more appropriate now." Nasreen traced the engraving with her finger. "In all weathers," she repeated, the words feeling like both a promise and a possibility. As they walked home beneath a sky clearing after rain, Nasreen realized that for the first time since her diagnosis, she was thinking about the future not with fear, but with cautious hope. New horizons. 1 year later, the Australian sun warmed Nasreen's skin as she stood on the beach near Cairns, watching Oliver wade through the shallows with his research equipment. The Great Barrier Reef stretched before them, a living masterpiece of color and life beneath the turquoise surface. Their compromise had evolved. Nasreen had extended her stay to 3 months, establishing a following at the local bakery with her fusion creations. Oliver had arranged his research schedule to accommodate her treatments, which she now received at a clinic in Cairns. "Come look at this," Oliver called, his face alight with the joy of discovery. He held up a sample of coral, explaining how it was showing signs of recovery following a bleaching event. Nasreen waded out to join him, her waterproof medical alert, bracelet glinting alongside the silver one that read, "In all weathers." The past year had brought changes, both expected and unexpected. Her symptoms had progressed, but less rapidly than initially feared. On good days, she still created intricate pastries. On difficult days, she focused on developing recipes and training her expanded staff back in Portland. The most surprising change had been within herself. The fear that had once consumed her of being a burden, of losing her identity to her disease, had receded, replaced by a determined pragmatism. She still grieved for the future she'd once imagined, but had found peace in embracing the reality of her life with Parkinson's. "What are you thinking about?" Oliver asked, noticing her contemplative expression. "How different this all might have been if you hadn't found those pills," Nasreen replied honestly. "How close I came to losing everything that matters by trying to protect it." Oliver wrapped an arm around her waist. "We can't rewrite the past, but we've made a pretty good present, don't you think?" She nodded, leaning into him. They had indeed built something beautiful from the wreckage of that night, a relationship founded on absolute honesty, where vulnerability was seen not as weakness, but as courage. Back in their rented cottage that evening, Nasreen worked on sketches for a special project, a cookbook featuring adaptable recipes for chefs with mobility and dexterity challenges. What had begun as personal necessity had evolved into a passion project that was generating interest from a major publisher. "Dr. Patel emailed," Oliver said, scanning his phone. "The new medication protocol is showing promising results in the trial." Nasreen looked up from her sketches. "That's good news." She also mentioned that Portland General has started a specialized physical therapy program for Parkinson's patients. "We should look into it when we get back." Nasreen nodded, adding it to their shared digital calendar, a system they'd developed to manage her medical care alongside their professional commitments. The calendar represented their new normal, a life where Parkinson's was neither ignored nor allowed to dominate, but simply incorporated into the tapestry of their days. Later that night, as they sat on the porch watching stars emerge over the ocean, Oliver reached for her hand. "I've been offered a permanent research position here," he said quietly. "Starting next year. 2 weeks on site, 2 weeks flexible. Location." Nasreen turned to him, surprised. "What about your position in Portland?" "I'd maintain my university affiliation, but this would be my primary work." He hesitated. "I know it's a big change, especially with your medical team established in Portland, but I wanted to discuss it before giving them an answer." A year ago, such an announcement would have triggered anxiety in Nasreen, another uncertain variable in a future already filled with unknowns. Now she considered it thoughtfully. "We'd need to research specialists in cairns," she said, "and sweet alchemy could be managed remotely part of the time, with Zoe taking a larger role," Oliver suggested. "And maybe a second location here? The guest chef appearances have been successful." Nasreen smiled at his enthusiasm. "You've thought about this a lot, haven't you?" "I've considered the possibilities," he admitted, "but it's our decision, not just mine. Your health comes first." "My health is a factor, not the only factor," Nasreen corrected him gently. "We've gotten good at adapting, haven't we?" The next morning, they visited the local hospital to explore options. The neurologist they met with was familiar with Nasreen's case. Oliver had already sent her records ahead, typical of his thorough approach. The facility was well equipped, with a Parkinson's specialist who had trained at the same institution as Dr. Patel. As they left the hospital, Nasreen felt a sense of expanding possibility rather than constraint. "I think it could work," she said. "Not immediately. We'd need time to transition. But maybe by next spring." Oliver's smile was radiant. "Really? You'd consider it?" "I'm done letting fear make my decisions," Nasreen said firmly. "And the idea of a sweet alchemy Australia has a certain appeal." That evening they celebrated with dinner at a beachfront restaurant. Oliver raised his glass. "To new horizons." "And weathering all storms," Nasreen added, touching her glass to his. After dinner, they walked along the moonlit beach. Oliver stopped suddenly, turning to face her. "There's something I've been meaning to ask you," he said, his voice catching slightly. "Something I tried to ask a year ago before everything changed." Nasreen's breath caught as he knelt in the sand, pulling out a small box, different from the one that had held her bracelet. "Nasreen Ahmadi, I love you. Your strength, your talent, your honesty." He opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant ring. "Will you marry me? Not despite the challenges ahead, but knowing we'll face them together?" Tears blurred Nasreen's vision as she looked down at the man before her, this man who had taught her that love wasn't diminished by vulnerability but strengthened by it. "Yes," she whispered, her left hand trembling not from Parkinson's but from joy as he slipped the ring onto her finger. Later, as they sat wrapped in a blanket on the porch of their cottage, Nasreen remembered something Dr. Patel had said during one of their first appointments after Oliver learned the truth. "Parkinson's will be part of your story, but it doesn't have to be the whole story." Looking at Oliver beside her, at the ring on her finger, at the stars above and the endless ocean beyond, Nasreen knew with certainty that her story, their story, was so much more than the sum of her symptoms. It was about choices made in the face of fear, about truth after secrets, about finding strength in vulnerability. And most of all, it was about the power of love to weather any storm, to adapt to any condition, to find beauty in the journey, however unexpected its course might be.